This presentation is for my signature project part 2 for current trends 520. Get this to go. Okay. The original data and identified problem. The identified problem is prior to the year 2018. The students at Morris Avenue Intermediate have been scoring proficiently on unit math tests. Present day, over half of the students are not scoring proficiently on math unit tests. The chart on the right shows the students' test scores from Unit 4 through 6 math test. And this chart to the right is data from my class, the students in my class from this past school year, 2020 to 2021. My research problem is: do small groups improve mastery in math of 5th grade students at Morris Avenue? Background investigation. The background investigation for this project was researching the test scores of students 2 years prior to 2021. As a school, Morris Avenue Intermediate scored an overall higher score on the state testing than the rest of the state. However, as a class, my students are not scoring proficiently on math unit tests. The school system adopted a new curriculum titled Math Investigations, and the curriculum has chances to involve students in peer group learning throughout the math instruction. Morris Avenue Intermediate received a grade of C, 79 points, based on the Alabama Department of Education scorecard. It did not receive a score from the 2019 to 2020 school year because of the unforeseen circumstances of the pandemic. And also no state testing happened last year, so we do not have any data from the previous school year. More background information. So information connected to literature. So small group instruction throughout math can help solve many issues schools face throughout the school year, and students' test scores and proficiency in meeting math objectives and standards. In a study completed by David Benders about the effect of small groups, also called flexible small groups, for math achievement, research showed that 11 students who were performing under grade level were involved in math small group rotations for an hour a day that were teacher chosen and instructed. The results of this study showed a positive impact among students involved in math small groups that scored proficiently on the next math test. So an outline of the action plan. Sampling method and sample description. The sample I have will consist of my current 5th graders within my current classroom at Morris Avenue Intermediate in the school year of 2020 to 2021, which is 18 total students. The classroom consists of 11 male students and 7 female students. The sample method will happen by participants of students within my classroom. The sample method will be a convenient sampling. The controlled and experimental groups will be at random. I will have 6 groups with 3 students in each group, and I will have 3 controlled groups and 3 experimental groups. Like I said, these groups will be chosen at random, and my students will be aware that at any time they can choose to opt out of this research study. It is not mandatory, and it will not affect their grade. Instrumentation. The instruments that will be used in this study will be the Math Unit Assessment, Unit 7. The assessment is created by Pearson, and it aligns with the objectives and standards that students are needing to meet throughout the math unit. Other instruments will be used in this study. In this study will be math manipulatives, including fraction strips, shapes, fraction cards, flashcards, whiteboards, games, math games, and worksheets that go along with the small group instruction of that day. Collaborative efforts. The collaborative efforts and resources that will be used throughout the small group instruction will be math manipulatives, worksheets to practice the math strategies and partner work within the small group instruction. The manipulatives will be used to further assist in students practicing math strategies while allowing students to participate in hands-on learning. Throughout the small group instruction, students will be allowed to work with and check with partners within the group. Students will also be able to peer teach throughout parts of the small group that will have a teacher near and observing them as they are peer teaching, to just in case fix any misconceptions or confusion. Continuing with my outline of action plan, the procedures. I started with the very beginning of the unit what the Unit 7 math test will cover, which is fractions. So the procedure of this action plan is first beginning by breaking up the students by random into the control and experimental groups. The students will be introduced to fraction strips and receipt paper because fractions is what the next unit math test will be covering. The receipt paper will be created into fraction strips for students to work on finding equivalent fractions. The students will also complete fraction worksheets in small groups with a partner to reinforce the strategies covered within the math small groups. The internal and external validity of my action plan. The unit math test is valid and reliable because each student will be completing the same test. Throughout the action plan, the manipulatives and worksheets will be the same for each student and will be given out by the teacher. The variety of questions allow the students to demonstrate their learning from their math unit. The different kind of questions range from fill-in-the-blank questions, multiple choice, written responses, matching, and drag-and-drop questions. Ethical considerations. Confidentiality. The confidentiality will be I will be sending out a letter to the parents and guardians of my students within my classroom during the school year of 2020 to 2021. The figure to the right is a sample of the parent-guardian consent form that will be sent out, and I will read it out loud because I am not sure, it's a little blurry on my screen. Dear parent or guardian, I am your child's 5th grade teacher at Morse Avenue Intermediate, and I will be conducting a research study on if small groups throughout math instructions will allow students to master the math standards and score proficiently on the next math unit assessment. I will be requesting permission for students to participate in the research study. The study will consist of your student being broken up into groups with 2 other students. The whole class will receive the same instruction as always. The students will have 2 days to review before taking the unit math test. The study will allow half of the groups will be continuing with the same instruction, and other half of the students will participate in small group instruction throughout the math unit as well as the whole group instruction. The chosen group will be completely at random. The research study will be explained to the students in detail, and the students will then be able to decide if they would like to participate in the study. At the end of this study, I will be the only one to view the students' results of the math unit assessment. Participation in this study is voluntary. Your decision in allowing the students to participate in the study will not affect the students' instruction or grades at Morse Avenue Intermediate. If you do give your child permission to participate in the study, he or she has the option to end participation in the study at any time. You and your child are not waiving any legal rights or claims of participating in the study. Information that is obtained from the study will remain confidential and remain disclosed only with your permission. Confidentiality will be maintained by means of identifying students by gender, as well as groups in regards to whether they participated in the control group or experimental group. And then the IRB. The form will be sent to the IRB when completing my research proposal, protecting the welfare of human research subjects recruited to participate in the study. The special populations considered. The special populations that should be taken into consideration throughout this study would be special education students, students with IEPs, students with 504s, and PST students, problem-solving team students, and students receiving intervention Tier 3. Students who are among the special population throughout their research study will be allowed more time or modifications if available in IEPs or 504s. Special education teachers may be involved among the small group instruction to work with students. The students will receive the same instruction if working with a special education teacher. The results. Connecting the action plan to student achievement. Throughout the mathematics instruction in my classroom, students can perform proficiently on formative assessments, including exit tickets, worksheets, quizzes. The action plan is targeting the students who are not scoring proficiently on the math unit test. The students will be taught the same material. The small group instruction has the opportunity to motivate students to participate and gain confidence to involve themselves in mathematics instruction. If the action plan is carried out and the students were given the opportunity to work in small groups, there should be over 3/4 of the students scoring proficiently on the math unit tests. To see student achievement growth, what changes in the data would you need to see? I would see changes in the data regarding the test scores of students receiving A's and B's. When seeing students' achievement growth, it would also show growth among the formative assessments within the small group instruction. I would also see a change in data among students become more confident in participating in math discussions and activities. First, seeing student achievement growth would begin in the small group instruction and then reflect on the next unit math test with more than half of the students receiving A, B's, and C's. Changes I would make in my original plan. Changes I would make to my original plan would be collaborating with the special education teacher when creating small group lesson plans. When creating my original plan, I had not considered special populations of students when completing my research study. I believe collaborating with other teachers would also assist in changing my original plan because it would give ideas and creative plans to complete the math small groups. Additional research that could be done. Additional research that needs to be completed would include research on successful procedures and activities educators conducted throughout math instruction. This could also include participating in interviews with veteran teachers and math instructors about what would be successful and what could not. I would also complete additional research on confidentiality among the students participating in the research study. I would need to research and make sure my students are protected against anything that could happen within the study. And these are my references from the slides.